At Alvarado Street Brewery and Bistro for Pup Talk on the Locals radio station for the Monterey Bay.
I'm freaking out, man.
You are freaking out. Wow, that's another movie I haven't seen in a long time.
Super Troopers?
Oh, that's on constant rotation.
Yeah,
I like Super Troopers.
First one, excellent.
I went inside. I realized there was two more. There's one more.
The lesson there though is don't go back to the well.
They did. I thought they did another one. Oh, maybe that's the one. Because it wasn't good.
Yeah. The second one for Super Troopers. Yeah. As we go into our movie openings.
Well, and then they did one for, it's on TBS or something about a fire station. It's pretty much just episodic.
Yeah, Tacoma Fire.
Yeah. It took Reno 911.
I like Broken Lizard.
Super Troopers, Reno 911. It's all kind of runs together. You know,
I like them, but it just do Super Troopers. Move on.
What was the one they did about the Sammy slamming salmon?
Yeah, and the one that was a take on the horror movie at the
lake or something. Yeah, that was good too. I liked them all.
They're all entertaining, just not on rotation.
I am a big fan of stupid comedies, whether it doesn't matter. Like the dumber, like
what's your guilty pleasure for that other people would be like, what? Why?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I'd have to really let me think about that. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah, we'll wrap on that.
Right. Yeah, we'll wrap on that. I'll give you some time to think about that.
Let's talk about really cool stuff going on in the community. How about that?
Yeah,
Ruth
here something productive.
From Heal Together. Welcome to Pup Talk. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me.
You've got such a unique organization, and there's so many facets. Our mutual friend Marcy talked to us about having you on, and I read the initial part. I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect. And then I went and read more and more and more about what you guys do. And it quickly became apparent to me that you guys are an encompassing organization that is making a difference in a lot of people's lives here. So I want to give you the platform to let us know what Heal Together is and some of the great things that have been happening recently with you guys.
You know, Heal Together is a specific mission and a program that we have been launching through Coastal Kids Home Care. That is the nonprofit for which I work, and I am the Director of Palliative Care and Bereavement. So that last part, bereavement, is where the vision for Heal Together really was developed. Over the last 2 years, we have seen such an increase in people calling us, asking for bereavement counseling, obviously related to COVID, but there have been a lot of deaths that were influenced by COVID that were not COVID related, and many of these have some trauma involved, some isolation. As we were getting these calls, I was definitely feeling some helplessness. There's a shortage of therapists in our community, and even a greater shortage of therapists who feel comfortable and specialize in bereavement. So Hospice Giving Foundation was really the visionary for this program, and they decided about mid last year to really put some funding behind this and to ask an agency, if we gave you a lot of funding, could you figure out how to get a lot of bereavement out into the community? And I personally, in Coastal Kids Home Care, as an agency, we were very excited about this because we saw firsthand the lack of resources. So with that vision, we applied for this grant. We prepared and worked very hard. And right now, as we were awarded the grant in December, we've started in January. And with less than a month, we already have significantly more bereavement services out to the community. The mission is really threefold. Services is number one. We want more therapists available to do bereavement counseling, but we also know that counseling is not for everybody, right? I mean, even at this table, there might be some of you saying, I would not like to sit with a therapist for an hour and talk about my feelings. Now, I want you to know I personally do like sitting with a therapist, and the therapists that we have are so specialized and so lovely. However, there's a bit of a stigma sometimes, and also just generally people don't always connect with that. So the Heal Together movement is really more about having access to a variety of kinds of support, including counseling, but not limited to that. So An example would be our array of expressive therapists. I actually heard your last guest talking about yoga, movement, and energy movement. This is a wonderful way to help ourselves move through grief. And if you even think just more intuitively, we have a music therapist, we have art therapists, there are people who specialize in treating children who are grieving, people who specialize in traumatic kinds of losses like suicide and other losses that can be really isolating. They don't always allow you to get everything you need from the community. So we're very hopeful that as people begin to know about the Heal Together phone number, 831-320-0947, that you will call it and talk to us about what you're needing. And I really feel strongly we'll be able to match you with somebody.
I did put a link in the Facebook comments. And I'm preaching to the choir when I say this. I'm baffled that people take mental wellness and therapists with this shameful eye on it. We don't look at anyone any different of hey, I went to the dentist, got my teeth cleaned. Yeah. Got my car tuned up. And you're like, oh, dude, you got your car tuned up? What kind of baby are you? It's the same thing. The space between your ears is pretty important. And this past 2 years have shown us that the space between our ears needs more care. And we have some friends that are in the therapy field, and they're like, the wave of people that we're seeing is mind-blowing. And it just baffles me that the stigma still is there when it shouldn't be. It's a health need like anything else.
And how you touched on it, too. And, I mean, let's be honest. The pandemic has sucked. We can be blunt about it. But we've seen things happen. We've seen things grow or be birthed out of the hardship that can be viewed as positive. And I think one of those, and we've seen this happen, and I do feel like it might have actually started a little bit before the pandemic, but we've seen it really come to fruition, you alluded to, where the stigma there is starting to be shed. And we're seeing, I hate this part about America, but it seems like people don't listen until it's on social media or a famous person says something about it. But as stupid as that is, it is what it is. And again, that's another thing of that might be dumb, but some good stuff can come out of it, because maybe if someone hears that someone that they adore or really love their music or performance, whatever, is saying hey, mental health is important. You shouldn't have any shame. You should seek it out. If you're dealing with these emotions, reach out. I mean, that's a good thing ultimately. And what a great time for you guys to get this grant and to be able to give some of these services. And you mentioned it too. Personally, I think therapy is great. It is. It can really change people. But different people, heck, the same people at different times in their lives, sometimes therapy is a home run, sometimes it's a strikeout. And that's why you guys deal with other facets. Hey, we want to give you these tools. We want to give you these resources. We want to give you this support to help you deal with it. Ultimately, that's encouraging that we're in a space right now where there's less stigma. And whoever is out there that's saying oh, that's dumb or oh, you big baby, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And I don't think we have too many Neanderthals listening to KRML, honestly. So,
those are the ones that probably need the biggest,
the most help.
And are masking it in other ways.
Yeah, exactly. So I love the fact though that we're getting into a space where people are being more open. But that's one thing for people to be open. It's worthless if there's not someone to meet them there in the middle. And I love that you guys are approaching it the way that you are.
Well, you really bring up the great point about stigma, and I find that can be very cultural and or cultural through religion or things like that there can be a stigma. And so one of our major foci with the Heal Together movement is to reach some of these populations that do have a greater stigma. We at Coastal Kids have always done our best to hire people who grew up in this community, who speak Spanish, who are, speak several languages. And with this program, we're really going to try to remove some of the barriers, stigma being one of them, from these communities in our South County, where we think people have really been underserved for a long time. And the funding that we have been given really is going to be the motivation for a lot of groups to work with this population to say, how do we take away this barrier? What if someone doesn't have the technology? Well, we have mobile tech service. What if someone can't get there? Well, we can help you with a transportation service. Try to break those barriers and really reach everyone.
But also to part of it's starting really early with people. That's a huge thing. Letting you know, from kids all the way up. It's okay to talk about this stuff. It's all good. Work this, and it's all good. It's all for the good. You know what I mean? To kind of address it.
If you can start with kids, they really lead the way.
Especially in multicultural households, or where it is this big stigma against mental health care, or not against it, but where it's kind of looked like, maybe you're not quite, it's not whatever. Culturally, what fits, essentially. Kids are always the gateway for that.
I really agree. They're more open to things that are expressive.
Yeah.
And many of the therapists we work with through Coastal Kids do specialize in pediatrics, which is a specialization in addition to bereavement. But we also know bereavement is a specialization. And
right.
So in order to tap into the already existing mental health resources, the mental health professionals, groups that are already serving families, we are offering free to those therapists trainings. If you would like to know more how to serve people who are grieving, and that is the barrier to you taking clients, we will give that to you. And we have 2 trainings already set up for April. If you are a therapist or a group that serves families, children, adults, elderly, and you are looking for additional training, please contact us at the Heal Together number, 831-320-0947, and we will talk to you about how to get signed up for that.
I love that you guys are meeting the patients where they're at and the therapists. You guys are really, you're trying to, we're going to facilitate and help in every way we can. And bereavement it's a difficult thing. I mean, it's funny. We could really dive in. You said a few things that if we had a whole nother pub talk, I'd love to dive in as far as different ideas about therapy, be it gender or culturally or whatever. Again, another pub talk.
I know. I kind of stumbled over trying to explain that a little bit. It's a dinger.
It's an in-depth thing that there are a lot of facets to, and you have to be sensitive to all of them. But I do want to get back to especially in a timely fashion as well as what you're doing. We are in this age of a pandemic, and we've seen people lose their lives from the virus itself, and we've also seen people lose family members or friends, either because of the virus or not. And not be able to grieve them in the traditional sense. It's not okay right now to get together and do what we. I mean, and I honestly think that a lot of cultures have it right, where it's we're going to get together and we're going to celebrate. Mm-hmm. We're going to celebrate these people's lives. Right now, it's not the best. So what do you do? And I love that you guys are addressing that, because you guys are coming up with ways that, I know you want to get together and you want to give toasts and you want to have a meal and you want to tell stories. You want to do all these things. That's not good right now, but here are some things that you guys can do. And people have been kind of asking those questions and looking to you guys for some advice and some direction on that.
Yes, they have. And you really bring up that great point that a funeral or a memorial or a celebration of life is for the living. Right. Yeah. And so, we as the people who are still here, we haven't had our own chance to kind of figure out how to live without that person. We are getting a lot of calls like that. We have a lot of creative ways to memorialize people. It's true that a lot of them don't include gathering, but some of them do. And so I'm so pleased that you sort of brought that up as something that is possible through the Heal Together programs, because it's really necessary, for our own way to feel better.
Mm-hmm. It is. It sounds insensitive, but the person who passed isn't there. They're not there to say thank you. And I'm glad you guys are here today. And, I'm glad No, this is for these are rituals that we have developed over centuries to cope and understand, or to at least be able to move forward. And the fact that we've kind of had that stripped away from us, amongst many other things, this pandemic can be really difficult. And I can see it being particularly difficult in either for people or in cultures that is a very big thing. That this is, you need to do these things. These are the appropriate things to do for things to be right. Well, now we've had to step back and be like, well, if that can't happen, can we still make it right? And I love that you guys are really meeting people whatever socioeconomic, cultural, whatever place that they're in.
Whatever it is.
Yes, age, gender, whatever. To be like, hey, well, here's some things you can do, and here's someone you can talk to about that. And just having someone to be like, you can talk to somebody. I mean, that's not always, I think some of us might take that for granted. And
it's true. And I think that you, as you're talking, it reminds me of one of my best reasons why, my favorite reasons why I like serving people who are grieving is because it's the thing that connects us most, right? Almost everybody has lost someone that they love or a pet, which there are services out there through Heal Together if you've had pet loss. But it's a thing that we can really relate to the most other than love, right? Grief is something that...
taxes are the only thing you're leaving out right now, right?
Yeah, and that's cross-cultural, that we experience grief. And when we experience grief, cross-culturally, cross-ages, there are physical symptoms. Mm-hmm. There are symptoms that mimic depression, but they are not depression, right? There's symptoms that feel like anxiety. They're not anxiety. So another thing that we would like to offer to the community is really education about grief. You're not having a mental health condition if you're grieving. You're a perfectly natural human being who's having a big life experience, and this is part of it, and we will help you.
Awesome. That was well said.
Damn.
Well, if you know what she's doing.
That was nailed.
That's the hum right. If people want to find out more, what's the best way to do it?
The two best ways are to call us directly. We consider ourselves the hub. We do not provide all the services, so the person you speak to will talk to you about what you're needing, and essentially, move you towards that person that can help you. Se habla español, so please feel free to call in if you speak Spanish. And then the second way would be the Heal Together website. It's heal-together.org. That will have a calendar of things that are going on. For example, we have 2 free workshops this weekend in Salinas towards mindfulness and journaling. So that will list the services, but also talk about the services, so that if you are someone that would like to know more about something like a guided walk with a bereavement counselor, it will tell you a little blurb, or how to do a cooking class for your family that's grieving in the Spanish language. That can help you guys connect in a different way.
You got it all. Yeah, like a Swiss Army knife of emotional support.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm the polar opposite.
The opposite. Antithesis right here. Thank you so much for coming on. And thank you so much for what you're doing here in this community. It really is special.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We're broadcasting live out here on the patio at Alvarado Street Brewery and Bistro. We're going to take